St. Mary Buildings and Grounds. For buildings and grounds at St. Mary Church, our goal is to keep them beautiful and functional or restore them to that beauty and function in areas where we've allowed that to lapse. As you can see, we have a long list of needs. There would be approximately or over $2 million needed in maintenance and upgrades just to get us back to where we should be. Buildings and Grounds Committee is helping us to plan for that future. In the following slides, we'll go through the different buildings on our campus. St. Mary Church is in good shape given the laser focus that started back in 2011, which resulted in the Centennial Campaign. As you can see by this list of new gutters and roof and sound system and lighting with LED and so forth, all of this is where we've gotten it in better shape. There's still a few things to be done. Restore the rood cross, which is next in line, and we still have to refinish all the wood in the aisleways and the reredos behind the altar. A long list of restoration projects were completed in the last year. The church doors were restored not only in beauty, but also in function. They can actually open and close nicely now and keeps a lot of the cold air out. We also restored and replaced our beloved organ. If you'd like more details of how bad of shape the old one was and how great the new one is, you can contact Katie Barton. We also replaced the new tile flooring in the sanctuary. It was that old carpet that was 20-some years old, falling apart, and it was not the original function of the flooring in the sanctuary, so we were able to get it back to where it should be. We also updated HVAC controls, adding thermostats in the church. Sounds like something very basic, but it was not there before. We had to really kind of guess at where the temperature needed to be each day, each weekend. Now we have thermostats we're working to tweak to get so that they'll run more automatic and making sure that it's comfortable while we praise the Lord. We also updated our elevator controls. You might not notice it when you get in the elevator, but the guts of the elevator were replaced. After 20 years, that is a normal time to replace that, but also we were in a very poor contract. We now have a much more favorable financial terms as well as a better service contract. So we're in much better shape with the new elevator. As you can see, there's still some things to be done, but we really have run out of all the money from the Centennial Campaign. We do have a small amount of donations still trickling in, but we do also have 5 more installments each August. We have an installment of the SHOT grant, but until that comes in, we're in a pause for our next projects. Our school buildings, one of which is over 100 years old, and the newer building is now 20 years old, which is now starting to have items that need to be replaced. So we've put together a new school facilities advisory committee that has stakeholders from parents, teachers, admin, and facilities staff to make sure we're planning out our future and getting back on track with our school building. The focus includes a long list: tuck pointing the building, which is something that is very expensive and hasn't been done in a long time. New lockers, paint, there's a lot of things here. The new chiller, estimated to be about $150,000, which is typical after 20 years on our newer building, that we need to replace that. And you can see the rest of the items. We are just getting to where we're calculating all the funding necessary to meet the needs of the school building, and it'll be well over $1 million. we'll get to the final number. We've also added another planning committee for technology, again, having the stakeholders of the parents, teachers, and administration to make sure we're planning out how our technology needs, not only today, but for the future. What does a student need in the classroom for best education? And then what do they need, especially junior high, in preparation for high school? And then what do the faculty and staff need as well? Of course, we'll be looking at budget as we're looking at that as well. We also put together a school coronavirus reopening task force, again, having stakeholders of parents, teachers, and administration to make sure that we can open the school safely. The results we've had so far tie back to all the work that was done by this coronavirus reopening task force. Now's a good time to have a shout out to Brad Dennis, Joe Kletz, and a bunch of other dads and moms who helped out in creating the plexiglass barriers that help to defend our teachers in each classroom. While we're doing this planning, we need to keep in mind the school needs that St. Mary's School has to stay competitive and a great school. We do not have, and we need, a dedicated science lab. We also need more space for foreign language, a separate classroom that we don't have right now, as well as more space for our growing cougar care. The St. Mary Buildings and Grounds Committee is planning the long-term use of Seton Center. Right now, it's heavily used for meetings, presentations, has all of our pastoral and liturgical staff offices, as well as some storage too. It's a solid building, brick, newer roof, the structure's in good shape. There are some deficiencies. The older windows, you can see there's cracked seals on a lot of them. So that is wasteful the way it is. So at some point we're going to need to replace those. We also have those individual heat and air units in each room. They draw 220. They're very inefficient. Quite a few of them don't work. We can't get parts in some cases. So that's another area that we're going to have to look for our future. There's also drainage pipes behind the building, behind Seton Center toward Ashmont, that we've had problems with it backing up and flooding the basement. We have had it jetted out, and we are continuing to jet it out more often to try to keep that from doing that. But those pipes go over towards Shady Lane and under that large, beautiful tree. At some point, we're going to have to replace those pipes, and it's questionable about that beautiful tree. Currently, we're sprucing up the Seton Center by replacing flooring and painting in the stairwells and library. Also trying to tie together to have a common decorating theme. This is done on a lower budget, but we wanted to spruce it up as a place that we meet a lot. The St. Mary Rectory and Parish office needs more focus. It's an over 100-year-old building that was built residential for 7 priests. About 50% of it is meaningfully used right now, and it's in severe disrepair. The second and third floors need major work. An example of that is up on the 3rd floor, what used to be one of the bedrooms. On the west side, the wall is buckling out, and if we don't do something with that, it's going to continue to do that and create problems. So the summary, we cannot wait much longer to put major focus on this building. It's continuing to get worse, but yet we don't have a need for that space that we can use it for. We have the need, we can't use that space. So Buildings and Grounds has been looking at this for the last year plus, and had architects perform a feasibility study on that building. So approximately 1.6 million at a minimum would be needed to rehab for parish purposes, to be able to use that space for areas where we need extra space. But it really, even with that kind of money put into it, it would still not completely meet our future needs. It would really be trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and it just will not meet our needs. This past year, we upgraded our rental house for St. Mary. We sold the house on Ashmont behind Seton Center to buy the house on Monteith, which is next to the green space to the east of Seton Center. So why did we do this and how did we do it? Well, first of all, the red house was in severe disrepair. I can sit here and give you a long list of items that needed to be done just to be able to inhabit the building. And oh, by the way, if you look at what the neighbor who bought it is doing with it, he's putting in all that work and all that money. Conversely, the Monteith house is in good shape. It will need some work at times, but overall it is in very good shape. We were able to rent it right away. The red house on Ashmont was also outside of our footprint. The campus footprint, if we wanted to expand anything we're doing, we couldn't expand it across the street. On the flip side, the Monteith house is inside our footprint. It is contiguous to that green space as well as the Seton Center parking lot, which at some point could come in handy with future planning. There was no valuable use for the red house at the point when we sold it. It was really just being used for storage, but yeah, we also had a lot of upkeep on it just to keep it where it was in bad shape. The Monteith house, on the other hand, is producing income right now, and it's actually months away from the ROI, so we will have paid off the difference already in upgrading our house and in much better condition and where it is. The St. Mary campus grounds is a nice, compact, clean campus with a lot of potential, but there are quite a few things holding us back. We do have some nice green space next to the Rectory, as well as on the east side of Seton Center, but neither are ideally positioned. It's tough for kids to play on those green areas because of being next to busy streets. So it would be better if we had that positioned elsewhere, and the Building and Grounds Committee is looking at the potential of being able to maybe make a swap and put green space where it's more usable and put parking where those are. The playground will also need updating. It is in disrepair. It's showing its age. There's crumbling concrete in a couple areas. The walls around the main parking lot behind church do have big chunks that are coming out of it at this point, so we are going to have to do some major work there to get that back to where it should be. Plus, the walls of the steps entering the gym on Erie Avenue also have some big concrete issues. We also have 2 underground vaults that present future liabilities. Those vaults are both located in the main parking lot behind church. The Duke vault is right as you enter the parking lot as you drive in. If you noticed a couple years ago, we put up posts to block you from driving on that front corner. That's where the vault is. It holds a transformer that Duke owns, but at some point Duke needs to be able to replace that, and when they replace it, they want to get it out of that vault because that vault is starting to really show its age and have problems as well. Now, a lot of this is Duke's responsibility, but St. Mary also holds some responsibility with it as well. So that will add up when that time comes. We don't know exactly when that'll be, probably in the shorter term versus the longer term. Also in that same parking lot, if you go back to the entrance to the school off that parking lot, the concrete areas over by the entrance are all over our boiler room. So it's again another vault over the boiler room. Similar to the Duke vault, we put up poles because it is starting to show its age, and we didn't want the car traffic to cause it to go quicker. But at some point, we are going to have to get that replaced as well. And again, now that'll be all our expense, and it could be sizable. We will keep an eye on that and start getting some bids and find out how long we have before we can need to get that replaced.